So this is the video review for the Revoltech Yamaguchi number 99 Getter Arc. Or Arc, ooh. Yeah, how many giant robots use a Sanskrit character in their name? I don't think many do. So this is coming at us from our friends at Angles, so check them out. And this particular character is from the manga series Getter Robo Arc, which unfortunately was cut short because the magazine that it ran in was canceled, and sadly, soon after the magazine was canceled, Ken Ishikawa passed away. May he smile down upon us from Getter Valhalla. So, before I get into the basics of this Revoltech figure, I do want to point out that yes, it does come with a Revo chip, and that's what this is called, a Revo chip, and a Revo container for storing the hands and basically nothing else but the hands. And again, my whole reaction to this is, well, it's a coin. Put the coin in the box. It just feels so natural. Okay, so Getter Arc. As you can see right away, he's got a big old Getter weighing apparatus on the back. And as far as I can tell, this is always on his back, and I don't wish to remove it because that would be non-canon. But still, you know, if you mess around with him, he will stand up with this thing on his back. And unlike the later Revoltech that I reviewed, which was the Getter 1 renewal version, he feels a bit more traditional in that most of his joints are just Revoltech joints. He does have the whole new neck system where it's a ball joint with a tiny little non-Revoltech joint in there, which basically allows him to go as long as you want. But for the most part, everything else, except for the wrists, of course, is Revoltech joints. You know, he's got a one in the chest there that goes all the way up and down, and it hides pretty well. The sculpt definitely does hide that pretty well. You know, Revoltech joints in both shoulders, in the elbows. He doesn't have any kind of little sleeve to hide the Revoltech joint just because of how this is sculpted, but it doesn't look too out of place. A couple of Revoltech joints in the hips, and he's got some in the knees with that little flap that is jointed, and basically if you position it right, it should fold in a little bit so you can get a nice deep knee bend. And Revoltech joints in his ankles, and unlike the renewal version Getter 1, these feet actually do stand nice and parallel to the ground so that you can stand him up. Okay, and now let's get a good look at his head sculpt there. Sort of a Getter Robo meets Devilman. Maybe a little bit of Batman thrown in there. But this is pretty good as the default head, and he does come with an alternate head, which is actually kind of hard to put on. You kind of have to really force the thing on a moving joint on a figure that will move. But yeah, okay. Once you get it on, it's, well, it's supposed to be Getter Arc with its mouth open, but it doesn't really look that great. Mostly just because of the sculpt and the fact that it's kind of small, but yeah. I'm just going to stick with the default head. But yeah, he's got more than that. Obviously, he's got the whole Getter wing apparatus, and each one of these little spines on the back has a non-clicky Revoltech joint. I guess you could call it like a Figma joint that allows it to move up and down, in and out. You can rotate them, but you know, that just is asking for more trouble. And the whole Getter wing thing is done on a double Revoltech joint. And I'm looking at the box. This is actually how it's supposed to mount on his back. When you flip it up, you can see the Revoltech joints, and then when you have it down, you can just see the whole tech detail there. So yeah, I'm not really sure. It's like if that was wholly intentional, but you know, that's just how they show it on the box. And when it's up, that's time for a special attack, but we'll get to that later. And so what's a good Revoltech without optional hands? And like a lot of the modern Revoltechs, he does have the simple peg and hole system for putting his hands on. And each hand does have a little joint at the wrist. It's very nice, not like some of those early Revoltechs, where the hands were really hard to get off and really hard to get on, and even when you got them on, all they could do was rotate in place, and they had no give to the wrist at all. So I'm showing you a first pair of optional hands, which come with some stuff on them. And the reason I left the stuff on them is just because I wouldn't remember which one goes on which hand if I didn't. But yeah, the whole idea is that all these things just kind of fit over the hand, and yeah, there we go. And it's supposed to be like, you know, Getter Arc is like slashing something apart and, you know, pulling its robotic entrails across its hands. So these things are kind of cool. They have a nice paint job. There's a little red detailing there. There's kind of a nice little fade from purple to black there. So they look pretty cool. Again, they just kind of fit over the hands. They don't really snap in or plug in or anything. And looking close, you can see that Getter Arc does have little fingernails there for, you know, calling people's eyes out. But, you know, again, other than that, these are just your regular splayed hands. And oddly enough, these are the only hands in the set that actually do have like little claws on them, which is kind of weird. In his other set of hands are these little, I guess, kung fu hands. I don't know. He's gonna get his hands like this. It's like the claw is locked on. Ooh. But yeah, kind of cool kung fu-y hands. I guess you're supposed to use these in conjunction with the Getter Tomahawk to be, you know, like, I'm willing to get a tomahawk. Look at that, woo! But yeah, you know, kind of cool. Should probably start posing this because this is a Revoltech. And it's all about the posing. And, well, of course, if you can't get him to stand normally in a pose, you can always use the action stamp. Which, again, not really big on these things. I mean, they have been including them for a while, but, they just feel so cheap and plasticky. And this one's painted slightly differently than the other ones that I have. And like any good Revoltech, he does come with the holding things hands. And what are these for? Well, some sweet Getter Tomahawks. Yeah, these look really nice, and again, they do slide in and out very, very easily. But, you know, not so easily that they're just going to fall out, but, you know, gets a good grip on each Getter Tomahawk. And you'll notice that these wrists are jointed in a different way so that you can kind of get that more natural I'm holding a weapon pose. But yeah, Getter Tomahawks. They look pretty cool. And for whatever reason, he also comes with a little paper towel tube, so I guess he can look through and be like, I got a telescope, I can see you. Like that. I'm just kidding. The whole point of this little telescope is to totally stick in the hand as I try to pull it off. No, it's so you can take one Getter Tomahawk, kind of running through a little bit, and stick them together for some sweet double tomahawk action. So yeah, this looks pretty cool. It does kind of tax the wrist joint just a little bit, but still, you can deal with it. And that's it for optional hands. I'm just going to go back to his regular fists and watch as he totally plops off the action stamp. fists. We want fists. So what we're going to do is curl up these biceps here, flip up the getter wing, kind of splay these things out so they look nice. Pop up his hips, curl the leg, you know, maybe kind of curl the feet a little bit. Oh, and this little kneecap does move in and out, so you can kind of cover the joint if you want. Take your regular Revoltech stand and the flight stand part. I gotta wonder, it's like, now they're doing all the Revoltech stands in clear plastic, but they always cap it with a white Revoltech joint. Like, can they make clear Revoltech joints, or will those just kind of shatter? They tried to make them. I don't know. And, you know, to get them to fly, you gotta cram this thing right up his butt. And like most Revoltechs, some of the holes are a little tighter than they need to be for where the Revoltech joint pops in, but yeah, just kind of pose him like this, and you do his special attack, which is called the Thunder Bomber, or if you want to do in the proper English notation, Sunda Bomba! That'd probably sound cooler if Akira Kamiya was saying it. And again, if you want, he does come with the new extension piece to make a small plastic stand even more unstable. But you know, just kind of fiddle with it, and you know, you can get some extra altitude. There you go. He's flying. It's cool. So yeah, overall, I think Getter Arc's a pretty good Revoltech. I mean, obviously, if you like the design, this is the only toy of it so far. I think the only other figure of it that was mass release was, I actually have it, it was a tiny little, it was sort of a trading figure, but it was actually just a box of these tiny figures that didn't have their own individual boxes, by Eugen. It was like the Getter collection box, and there was a tiny little Getter Arc in there, along with Neo Getter in 2 colors, Getter Zahn, or I think it was Getter Rekka from Getter Zahn, and a bunch of other Getter Robos. No Getter 1 in that set, kind of weird. Oh yeah, first posable action figure of Getter Arc, pretty good. And again, if you want to get him, check him out at angles.com. I'm sure they still have some. Hopefully by the time this review goes up, they will still have some Getter Arcs. Yeah, overall, nice paint, good sculpt, not anything weird like the Getter 1 renewal version. So in the end, I gave it a thumbs up. And so this has been another professional review by Professional Vief for CollectionDX.